"You're not welcome here anymore," Diana said, dangling the cabin keys in front of me like a prize. Her voice was smug, her nails tapping the brass keyring. "This place belongs to the family now. And you're not family anymore." I stood on the porch of my grandfather's cabin, my childhood summer haven, feeling the sting of her words. "I'm Sophia Winters. I'm 32. And I'd just been erased from a place I loved by a woman who had never even met the man who built it. The cabin, nestled in the Montana wilderness, had been in my family for generations. My grandfather, James Harrison, was a geologist who spent decades exploring these mountains. When he passed 6 months ago, he left the cabin to my husband Marcus and me. Now that Marcus and I were officially divorced, his mother wasted no time claiming it. "You can't just change the locks," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "It's still half mine." Diana laughed, cold and sharp. "Oh, sweetheart, Marcus already filed to take your name off everything. After what you did to him, you're lucky we don't sue." What I did? I caught Marcus cheating with his secretary. But somehow Diana turned that into my fault. According to her, if I'd been a better wife, he wouldn't have strayed. She smoothed her blouse and added, "We need this place. Amanda's wedding photos will look perfect here." Amanda, my ex-sister-in-law, had turned on me the second the divorce papers were signed. I looked past Diana into the cabin. So many memories, so many secrets. "Fine," I said, surprising her with a smile. "I'll grab my things." "They're already packed," she snapped, pointing to a box by the door. I picked it up, suppressing a grin. Because the things that mattered, my grandfather's journals, the geological surveys, and the map, were hidden safely elsewhere. Diana could have the cabin, for now. As I walked to my car, she called out, "Don't come back, Sophia. Turn." "Enjoy your search," I said cryptically. Back at my apartment, I spread the papers across the dining table. The map wasn't one document. It was a coded collection of notes, sketches, and markings that only I knew how to read. My grandfather's treasure wasn't just sentimental. It was literal. He'd discovered a gold deposit and kept it hidden to protect the land. "The key isn't in the obvious places," he once told me. "Remember what I taught you about reading the land." My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Mom says you're causing trouble. Stay away or we'll get a restraining order." I ignored it. Let them dig. A few days later there was a knock at my door. It was Amanda. She looked uneasy. "What do you want?" I asked. "We need to talk. Mom's hired people to dig up the property. She keeps muttering about your grandfather's research." I let her in, curiosity piqued. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. She hesitated. "Because what they did to you wasn't right. And now she's obsessed. The geologists can't make sense of anything." Of course they couldn't. The notes weren't real, not to them. My grandfather had created a system only I understood. And the real journals, they were with me. "Maybe she's just chasing ghosts," I said. Amanda shook her head. "She thinks your grandfather left something behind. Something valuable." I didn't confirm or deny it. Let them dig. Let them tear up the cabin grounds. They wouldn't find anything, because they didn't know what they were looking for. Only I did. 2 weeks later, Amanda texted me photos of the destroyed landscape, trenches, machinery, and mud where wildflowers once bloomed. But in the background stood the untouched rock formation my grandfather called nature's compass. That was the true starting point. Then Marcus called. "What did your grandfather hide?" he snapped. "We've spent a fortune and found nothing." "Maybe there's nothing to find," I replied sweetly. "Or maybe you're looking in all the wrong places." "We found his journals," he said. "The markings, what do they mean?" Smiled. Those journals were decoys, full of false leads. The real map was still safe with me. "Did you really think he'd leave his life's work in the basement?" He went quiet. I could hear the panic in his silence. They were chasing shadows. And I was just getting started. "I know you and your mother are tearing up a beautiful piece of land based on rumors," I said. Grandfather would be heartbroken to see what you've done. His land. Marcus scoffed. It's ours now. We'll do what we want. Unless what? Help us, Sophia. You understand his research better than anyone. Tell us what the symbols mean and we'll cut you in. 20%.
All right, go ahead and
Actually
knock
laughed.
that.
20%
Or
of something you can't find. That's generous. 30. He sounded desperate now. Come on, Sophia. Goodbye, Marcus. I ended the call. That evening I drove to the overlook near the cabin. Floodlights cast long shadows over the broken ground. Diana's excavator sat silent for the night. What once was a peaceful retreat had become a torn-up construction site. In the distance, I spotted her pacing the site with a flashlight, still searching. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind. Greed makes people blind, Sophia. They'll tear up the earth chasing gold and miss the real treasure, understanding the land. He was right. The gold deposit wasn't under the cabin at all. It was hidden half a mile away, marked by rock formations he'd mapped with care. A message buzzed on my phone. Amanda. Mom's hired another geologist. Says he might decode Grandpa's symbols. I replied, that's the fourth one this week. Of course none of them could crack it. My grandfather's system combined geological markings with Native American symbols, something he developed with Joseph, a tribal elder and his close friend. The real map was a blend of science and tradition, one that couldn't be interpreted without understanding both. The next morning I visited Joseph. At 82, he was one of the few who truly understood what my grandfather had discovered. They've made quite a mess, he said, handing me coffee. Your grandfather would be disappointed. But they won't find it. No, I said. They won't. Joseph smiled. The land knows its guardian. They only see dollar signs. They don't see the responsibility. That was my inheritance. Not just the gold but the duty to protect the land. Diana's reckless digging proved she was never meant to have it. Another text from Amanda. Mom's talking about selling the cabin. Says it's worthless if we can't find anything. Instead of anger, I felt a calm satisfaction. Just as grandfather predicted, her greed was self-defeating. 3 months later, the cabin went up for sale. The property was scarred, abandoned trenches and rusting equipment left behind, but nature was already beginning to heal. Amanda texted again. She's selling for half of what it's worth. Says she never wants to see it again. Perfect. Through a shell company Joseph and I had set up, I quietly made an offer. Diana accepted without hesitation. She was too focused on salvaging her reputation to ask who the buyer was. When I returned, standing on the porch with the keys in hand, I felt the weight of my grandfather's legacy settle around me. The land would take time to heal, but it would. Your grandfather would be proud, Joseph said beside me. He nodded. It's time. That evening we opened the real journal. With the setting sun behind us, the shadow cast by the natural rock formation, nature's compass, aligned with the first marker. Every symbol in the journal told a story, not just of gold, but of history, ecology, and reverence. The path led us through untouched trails to the real site, one that was inaccessible to heavy machinery and perfectly preserved by design. 2 weeks later, I invited Amanda to the cabin. She listened in stunned silence as I explained everything. The real location, the true purpose, the conservation trust we'd set up to protect the land. All this time, she whispered, while Mom was tearing up the ground. The real treasure was hidden in plain sight, I said. But it needed someone willing to see. Amanda began to cry. I've been so wrong. Can you forgive me? You already proved you changed, I replied. Under Joseph's guidance, we began the first careful extraction. The gold's proceeds funded environmental restoration and education programs, just as my grandfather intended. When Diana found out, she was livid. But she had no legal standing to fight the sale she rushed into. She'd walked away from a fortune, blinded by her own impatience. A year later, Joseph and I sat on the cabin porch, now surrounded by blooming native plants and trails used by schoolchildren learning about the land. My grandfather used to say, Joseph smiled, the real gold isn't in the ground. It's in what you learn while searching for it. Now I understood. The true treasure wasn't just the gold. It was the wisdom to protect it, the patience to wait, the legacy of respect and harmony with the land. And somewhere out there, Diana was probably still digging in the wrong places, never realizing the truth she'd trampled right over. As the sun set behind nature's compass once again, I knew this land was safe, and my grandfather's legacy lived on.